Was working 12-hour shifts at the hospital, back to back, 6 days a week. Every day I came home exhausted, my feet swollen, my hands numb, and my spirit cracked. But I didn't rest. No, I still had to cook, clean, do laundry, and sometimes even fix broken things around the apartment. And while I poured every drop of energy into surviving, my husband, Mark, sat on the couch, unemployed for over a year. At first, I tried to be understanding. He's going through a phase, I told myself. The job market is tough. I cooked his favorite meals, left him notes of encouragement, even helped update his resume. But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And he did nothing. No job searching. No housework. He spent hours gaming, scrolling on his phone, and giving me empty excuses. I begged him to contribute. Even just take out the trash, I said one evening after a 14-hour shift, my back screaming. He looked up from his game, shrugged, and said, "You're better at that stuff anyway." That sentence broke something in me. I wasn't just tired. I was invisible. My love, my effort, none of it mattered to him. I started to question my own worth, wondering what I had done wrong. I stopped talking to friends. I cried silently in the shower. Every morning, I woke up with a weight in my chest, heavier than the last. But deep down, I knew. I couldn't live like this forever. One night, after he criticized the way I folded his laundry, I sat down with a piece of paper and wrote everything I wanted: peace, respect, partnership, freedom. And I realized none of that included him anymore. I started saving in secret. I worked extra shifts. I asked for cash instead of direct deposit. I even opened a private bank account. And with every dollar I saved, I felt stronger. I didn't tell him. He never noticed. One day, I packed a bag while he was out. I left a note. "I gave you time, love, support. You gave me silence. One choose myself now." I moved in with a friend and started therapy the next day. The first nights were hard. I missed the routine, the familiarity, even the misery. But over time, the silence became peace. I started painting again, something I hadn't done in years. I picked up new books, cooked for myself, and walked without anxiety. For the first time in ages, I wasn't surviving, I was living. I learned that sometimes love means letting go, even if it hurts. He texted, of course. Called me selfish. Said I gave up too easily. But I didn't reply. I had given him chances, too many. One chose my dignity over his comfort. I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was a woman rebuilding. I started a blog to share my journey. The messages I got from other women: "I feel seen, you gave me courage, thank you," told me I wasn't alone. That kept me going. I built a new life, slowly but beautifully. Got promoted. Got a cat. Took solo vacations. I don't regret loving him, but I regret losing myself. That won't happen again. Today, I tell my story not for sympathy, but for strength. Yours, mine, and every woman who needs to hear this. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave. And sometimes, that's where your real life begins. I never imagined that the man I once called my soulmate would become the biggest regret of my life. When I met Ryan, I was fresh out of college, optimistic, naive, and completely taken in by his charm. He was funny, smart, and he talked about dreams as if he already lived them. We moved in together quickly. I landed a stable job at a hospital as a nurse, and Ryan was figuring things out. At first, I didn't mind. I thought, maybe he just needed time. I supported us both, rent, food, bills, while working 12-hour night shifts. He said he was writing a book, applying for jobs, building a brand. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. I came home exhausted, cooked meals, cleaned the apartment, even rubbed his shoulders when he claimed he was stressed. I didn't realize I was slowly becoming his mother, not his partner. Months turned into a year. A full year of him sleeping in, playing video games, going out with his friends during the day, and giving me excuses at night. My friends started asking questions. Is he really trying to find a job? Why doesn't he help around the house? I defended him every time. I was too ashamed to admit that I didn't even know anymore. I kept telling myself he just needed a little more time. But inside, I was starting to break. The moment that cracked everything open came on a rainy Thursday. I just finished a 14-hour shift during a flu outbreak. My feet were blistered, my back ached. I walked in the door to find Ryan on the couch, a half-empty pizza box beside him, and a new $500 gaming headset on his head. "Hey babe," he mumbled, not even pausing his game. That's when something in me snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood there, soaking wet, and realized, I don't love this man anymore. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about how I gave so much of myself away. Time, energy, dreams. I thought of my younger self, so full of life, and how far I drifted from her. I wanted her back. I made a plan. Not revenge. Just freedom. Over the next few weeks, I quietly opened a separate savings account. I started packing my things bit by bit while Ryan was out. I even found a small apartment near the hospital. I didn't confront him. I didn't give him the satisfaction of a dramatic breakup. One morning, after another long shift, I came home, left the keys on the counter, and walked out for good. I sent him a message explaining everything. No yelling, no accusations, just truth. He didn't respond for 3 days. When he finally did, all he said was, "You're making a mistake." But deep down, I knew. The only mistake was staying as long as I had. The first week on my own was terrifying. The apartment was tiny, the silence was loud, and I cried almost every night. But every morning, I woke up feeling a little stronger. I got a plant, then a cat. I started journaling again. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Slowly, the fog lifted. I realized I didn't need to be anyone's savior, especially not someone who never wanted to save himself. I was done carrying dead weight. A few months later, I heard Ryan had moved back in with his parents. He posted vague status updates about how some people just don't understand loyalty. I didn't reply. I had nothing to prove anymore. I was thriving, promoted at work, running a 5K, even planning a solo trip. I finally felt alive. People asked if I missed him. The answer was no. I miss who I thought he was. But that person never really existed. He was a fantasy I clung to for too long. Now, when I think about that chapter of my life, I feel grateful. Not for the pain, but for the clarity. Sometimes, the universe doesn't scream at you, it whispers. And you have to be brave enough to listen. I learned to stop begging people to change and start choosing myself. That version of me, tired, small, overlooked, she's gone. In her place stands someone stronger, wiser, and unwilling to settle for less than she deserves. To anyone stuck in a situation where you feel invisible, know this: you're not crazy. You're not selfish. You're not asking for too much. You're just finally seeing things for what they are. And that's the first step to freedom. You don't know anyone in your life, your joy, or your energy. Especially not someone who drains all three. I walked away with nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. But now, I have everything I need: peace, purpose, and a future that's mine. My mornings became sacred. I'd wake up early, sip my coffee by the window, enjoy the silence that used to haunt me. Now, it comforted me. No one was nagging, no dishes piling up from someone else's laziness, no tension in the air. Just me, my breath, and a day ahead I was in control of. I started small routines that made me feel human again: morning walks, evening candles, and Friday night takeout just for me. One day, I bumped into one of Ryan's old friends at the store. He looked surprised, maybe even a little impressed. "You look happy," he said. I smiled and replied, "I am." He told me Ryan still talks about me, says I gave up too soon. But I didn't give up. I gave everything. What I did was stop sacrificing my well-being for someone who didn't want to grow. That's not quitting. That's surviving. There were nights I questioned myself. Was I too harsh? Did I abandon someone who needed me? But then I'd remember the cold dinners, the unwashed laundry, the emotional loneliness of sharing a bed with someone who stopped seeing me. That's not love. That's limbo. And I had lived in it long enough. It took courage to walk away, but it took even more to stay gone. And every day I didn't go back, I healed. Healing wasn't a straight line. Some days I still felt the sting of betrayal. I had nightmares where I was trapped again, shouting and unheard. But waking up alone, in my own place, with my own peace, was the reminder I needed. I was no longer stuck. I didn't need someone to complete me. I just needed space to rediscover myself. That was the true victory, not leaving him, but returning to me. A year after the breakup, I wrote a letter to myself, the version of me who stayed too long. I told her she was brave, that she loved deeply, and that none of it was wasted. She needed to go through that pain to learn how to protect her heart. I framed that letter and hung it by the door. So every time I leave for work or head to meet a friend, I remember who I was, who I became, and why I'll never go back. Soon, I started speaking about my experience online, not for sympathy, but to connect. To tell other women, you're not alone. Messages started pouring in. Strangers saying my story gave them courage. That made all the pain worth it. My suffering wasn't silent anymore. It became a bridge, a lesson, a light for someone else's darkness. And that, I realized, was more powerful than any apology I never received. I eventually met someone new. We took things slow. No fairy tale, no fireworks, just gentle honesty and mutual respect. He asked about my past, and I told him, not with bitterness, but with clarity. That chapter made me stronger, I said. And he didn't flinch. He listened. He held space. That's when I knew I was no longer repeating cycles. I was breaking them. I was building something new on my own terms. My ex tried to come back once. He sent a long message saying he missed me, how he changed, how he finally got a job. I stared at the screen for a while. Then I deleted the message without replying. Not because I hated him, but because I no longer needed anything from him. Not validation, not regret, not even closure. I had created my own ending, one where I was the main character, not a side note. People often say time heals everything. That's not true. Time only gives you the space to heal if you choose to use it. I chose to grow, to hurt with purpose, to rebuild piece by piece. And now, every laugh I share, every moment of quiet joy, is a testament to the fact that pain is not the end. It's the beginning of something real, if you let it be. I let go, and I gained so much more. So, here I am now, telling this story. Not as a victim, not as a cautionary tale, but as proof that even when love fails you, you can still rise. You can reclaim your life. You can demand more. And most importantly, you deserve peace, happiness, a partner who carries life with you, not drags behind. This isn't just my story. It's yours too, if you've ever felt unseen. Don't wait to be saved. Save yourself.